are again. It is the 65th annual Ford Boat Sport and Travel Show. This is Indy Sports Show Live. I'm your host, Brian Pointer. We're in the Champions Pavilion, and you can tell it's middle of the day. Crowds are big, and this is the final day of the Deer Turkey Waterfowl Expo as well. So much that we have done here is going to be available because that's what we've been doing, YouTube and Facebook Live. So you can go back and look at all the great stuff that we put together for you on social media. Just go to the indysportshow.com and click on the Boat Sport and Travel Show, and you can link right to it and watch at your heart's content. I might direct you to my interview with Twiggy the water skiing squirrel, highlight of my life. With that being said, we are doing some travel and doing some destinations, and most importantly, the things that make the Boat Sport and Travel Show what it has been for 65 years are the destinations and the great people, the lodges, who the people have been coming here for years and years, bringing Hoosiers, bringing people that are at this show to the most majestic places, and today is a great example of this. Todd, Heath, you were telling me, you know, how many years have you been doing this?
Well, Gold Arrow as a company has been here for the last 46 years, believe it or not.
I do believe it, because we've heard this consistently.
Yep.
People 2, 3, 4 decades. You know, I haven't missed a show in probably 40 years when
Yep.
I was a little kid coming out here. And obviously there's a reason. It's a good place for you to attract business.
If you look at all the shows that we do, this is right at the top. You know.
It's busy running a business, isn't it? When you have to be at all the shows and let people know what quality is there.
Well, that's for sure, and then you're selective on which shows you pick. So, you know, this is the one we look forward to coming to the most every year.
We're glad that you're here. Tell us in general, obviously in Canada, very, very popular here in the Midwest for people to do, you know, so many different types of trips up there, hunting, fishing. You hear the American plan, fly in. Help us understand not only what you do, but what people are asking at the show about how to book a Canada trip.
You know, our area we're in the northwest part of Ontario, and it's just a phenomenal destination if you want to get away from people. It's not an area you want to go to if you want to see 6 or 7 other boats around you, because that's not going to happen. Yeah. You know, our guests come from Midwest to get up there, to be on a lake, maybe fishing on one boat and not see anybody else the rest of the day. You know, we're big into walleye, northern, smallmouth, perch, crappie, muskie, and lake trout. We're in an area where we actually have all those species. You get about an hour north of us, you lose a lot of those. You might have still walleye in northern, far north Ontario, but where we're at, we have all those species to go.
Over 28 lakes?
28 lakes, so that's our claim to fame. It's just the amount of boats that we have out in the bush for our guests that want to get away. And that's why I mentioned one boat per lake usually. So are people flying in? Are they driving in? They're actually driving in. They drive right to our camp, and then we maintain the roads to get to the remote lakes. You'll drive down an old logging road that we have our own grader, so we keep the roads nice and smooth for you to get out there. Got a place for you to pull over and then walk down to the shores of the lake where our boats are kept. So there's a lot of different destinations in Canada that are here. Yes. The travel part of the Boat Sport and Travel Show. There's a lot of diversity in what people can choose from. Without a doubt. And you guys caught my attention that you have some pretty good grouse hunting up there. You know, the grouse hunting, in my opinion, is second to none. If you come up there, you really need to expect to get your limits of grouse. We have just miles and miles of walking trails. We have a lot of four-wheeler trails. We do a lot of bear hunting, and we usually stop that the week before grouse season begins. And where I've been running my bear baits, I know the area where the grouse are. So it's just phenomenal. I think I've seen one grouse in Indiana in all the years of being out in the woods. And they're so fantastic. When you hear expect to take your limits, I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. You know, a lot of times, a limit up there's 5 per day. And you can take your limit a lot of times on the first sighting you see. I would like to tell you our grouse are super smart up there. They're not used to seeing people. Well, then I'm a great hunter for that. We have people that come up to hunt grouse where we're at with their bows, put it that way. Oh my goodness. You can get within 10 yards of a grouse up there. You know, usually have a blunt tip on and get shots at with the bows. So I've heard you talk about some
some grouse hunting. I've heard you talk about bear hunting. I've heard you talk about great fishing. What type of accommodations?
Well, we're a drive-to, so we're the housekeeping plan. Every cabin has full-size kitchens, nice 3-piece bath, all the comforts of home. We don't cook meals, but like I said, they have the kitchens there for that. We have a nice little mom and pop restaurant about 4 minutes north of camp, where people, if they want to go out for dinner, they can do it there.
So you talked about the housekeeping plan. I've heard other plans, and I know that people advertise different things. What's the American plan?
Well, the American plan is where somebody comes into your resort and you feed them, basically. That's about the only difference. So they're preparing the meals for you.
You mean people have got to eat while they're up there?
Some people do eat.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, I do too, obviously. So when people come to your booth, what questions are you hearing? What are they asking?
Well,
what do they want to know?
The first thing is, where are you? How far it is from here. And then you tell them, well, it's about 16-hour drive time from middle of Indianapolis.
Well, that's about from here to Aberdeen, South Dakota.
Well, they'll compare it to Florida a lot of times.
Yeah.
Well, we might go down to Florida in the winter months, but boy, by gosh, it's nice to go up to Canada where it's cooler in the summer months.
Yeah.
So.
And you don't have any mosquitoes up there, do you?
Oh, none at all. That would be a lie, of course.
Yeah.
Usually by about July, they've ran their course. You might get a little bit of black flies by then. But, there in camp, we keep our yard nice and manicured. You can be grilling a steak at 7 o'clock at night, no problems. It's that last 15 minutes in camp before dark that they really come out.
And they kind of hover over and just carry you off.
They could. Yeah, you get about 20 on each arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away from the beauty and the majesty of what you've got going up there.
No.
Do you have guides?
You don't need guides on our lake. Our average lake size is about 2 to 3 miles long. But what my wife Angie and I do is we sit down with you with the maps of each lake, go over the hot spots. So whether you're fishing our home lake or driving out to one of our remote lakes, you're not doing it blind. You know where you're going, where the hot spots are. Usually when you slip a boat in the water up there, you're fishing within 50 yards. You're not going 2 or 3 miles upstream to get to the hot spot.
Well, you have some Hoosier connections as well.
We do. My wife and I both grew up in the northern part of the state, hometown of Columbia City, Indiana. So started going to this place back in the early 80s when I was 20-some years old, and 10 years ago we bought it.
Good for you.
So we still love coming back to the Midwest. And
do you live there full time?
We're up at our resort from end of April through the middle of October.
And then back in Indiana?
Back in Indiana during the winter months.
You get to do a few shows like this then? And
about 8 of them.
That's awesome.
Yep.
What haven't I asked that you'd like people to know or want to know? What type of documentation do they need to come? Let's say you want to do a bear hunt. How hard is that?
Well, that's a great question. The documentation, obviously, to get into Canada is everybody's heard that you need a passport, which is true to an extent. What a lot of people don't realize that there's also another form of documentation called the pass card. Passport's about $145 US. A pass card allows you to drive across the border but not fly. Now it's about the third of the cost. So a lot of people think they got to go out and spend a bunch of money on the passport. They may never fly ever anywhere in the next 10 years to another country. They can get the pass card for about a third of the cost and still get across the border by driving.
So it's nothing more dramatic than just normal travel documentation, either a pass card or passport.
You go right to your post office. They take a picture of you and you prove your identity, and about 6 weeks later you get your pass card.
What about carrying firearms across?
Carrying firearms, our guests that grouse hunt, that bear hunt, that need bringing up a shotgun or a rifle, muzzleloader, we will send them ahead of time the firearm declaration form, which you can also get it on the Ministry of Natural Resources website. It's about a 2-page form, takes you all 5 minutes to fill it out. When you show up at the border, you present this form to the customs officer. He verifies that the gun you claim on this form, or the guns, you can take up to 5 guns per person, is actually what you have in possession.
Yeah.
It adds about an extra 5 minutes to your time coming across the border, but it's pretty simple. They stamp it, charge you about a $25 US fee, you're on your way.
There you go. On your way to this beautiful remote camp, Gold Arrow. What can people, you've talked about the cabins, so everybody's in their own cabin.
Yep.
How many cabins?
We have 9. And they range from 2 people all the way up to 7, so it's not the same cabin 9 times.
Yeah.
They all have their own individual traits.
Well, it's great to have you be a part of the Boat Sport and Travel Show. I know that there's a lot of choice that people have, and hopefully they've come out and they've said hello to Todd and his staff at Gold Arrow up in northwestern Ontario. It is the Indianapolis Boat Sport and Travel Show's 65th annual sponsored by Ford. We're in the Champions Pavilion. We are in the Travel Cafe, Indy Sports Show Live. Love doing this for you guys all day long. Don't go anywhere because we're going to come back. I'm your host, Brian Pointer.